another in our webinar series, and a topic that we believe you will find fascinating and enlightening. Today we are looking at the importance of data analysis and visualization in the area of policy management. And so before we get into the meat of the matter today, we want to just remind you of the things that we need to do just to ensure that we have the best possible virtual learning experience in this 1.5 hours that we have together here. So we want you to close all other software applications except for WebEx. We don't want you to be distracted. Also, we want to remind you, mute your phones, whether it's your cell phone, your office phone, and we want you to be able to just really focus in on this learning experience. So remind your colleagues that you're not available for the next hour and a half. If you have an internet cable, it's best to plug that in. Keep your internet bandwidth nice and strong. It helps with that. And of course, if you have a good working headset and microphone, to use that as well. So we believe many of you are accustomed to attending our webinars, and I do believe we have some persons who are new. And we want to make sure that everybody knows exactly how we can participate in this virtual learning experience. So I just want to point out a few of our feedback and annotation tools that we use to interact with each other here. And so you will see a list of names, and below those names, there is a toolbar. If you're joining using a tablet or mobile phone, it might be at a different location. But there's a toolbar and there's a raise hand feature. You will see that there to the very left, far left of the toolbar. And so at the proper time, we will allow you to be asking questions of our guest presenters. And so we are going to encourage you at that time to use that feature, to click on the raise hand. And don't worry, we are able to see the sequence in which hands are raised, so we'll get to every hand that is raised. And so right beside the raise hand feature, there are two other features there. There's a green check mark and there's the X. And so we use that feature, just click on it, to respond to a question. The response is either yes or no. So I know where I am in Jamaica, we are being severely impacted by the Sahara dust. And so let me know where you are. If you're being impacted by the Sahara dust, give me a green check mark. And if you're not, give me an X. I see lots of green check marks, 1 or 2 X's. We're very envious of those who have said X. Yes, because it's really affecting so many of us. So we want to encourage you just to stay safe, to follow the various public service announcements from your respective ministers of health around that. And so to remove the green check mark or the X, you simply click back on those feedback tools and they will disappear. The other feature I want to point out to you is a chat. So way down below, you'll see the chat, and you'll see send to. And we want you to select all participants. So when we're sharing our comments or questions, we want everybody to be seeing you. And so you just send to all participants, type in the area, and then just click send. So if you have found the chat feature, just tell us hi using the chat feature so that we can see that you have discovered it. So hi, Nicola, Sean, Mary from Belize. Oh, my people are all over. St. Lucia all over. Hyacinth from Montserrat. Hi, Brandon. Great. So many of you have found the chat feature. The last feature I want to point out to you is the pointer tool. And so if you look at another toolbar, which is above your screen, now those who join on a mobile device, you might not be able to see this feature, but if you are joining using a laptop or desktop, that should be easily seen. So you see a toolbar above the slide, and to the far left, there's a right-facing arrow. When you click on that arrow, it becomes a right-facing arrow, and you can drag it and point it wherever you wish. So you will see my arrow with my name on it pointed at Annotated tool. So yes, Karina, you see you found it. So if you have found the arrow, I want you to point on the flag indicating the country from where you are joining today. And if you don't have the pointer tool, you can just simply type in the chat. So people are joining Suriname, Belize, Jamaica, oh yes, all over. From Guyana, from St. Vincent, Trinidad, oh yes. Thank you all so much. We're having a real CARICAD affair here. Thank you all so much. So we are going to, we're talking about data today, right? So we want to be experimenting with a little bit of data collection and analysis here. And so here is what I want you to do for us. And I am about to place in the chat a link to a survey. There it is. So I want you to click on that link and just fill out that very brief survey instrument for us. We want to be able to demonstrate how we use data and data visualization for policy making, for decisions. Using this very simple example, this is one of the examples we'll be looking at. So take a few minutes. I'll give you another, say, 4 minutes, asking you just to click on that link and just fill out that survey for us. And I'm going to invite you, once you've finished doing that survey, give me a green check mark when you're done completing that survey. See a couple of green check marks. Maybe another 2 minutes. One more minute. Somebody saying they're not seeing the link in the survey. I am posting it again in the chat. So while you continue to fill out that survey, I have another question for those who would have finished the survey already. And we are curious about this. What are you most curious about learning today in relation to data analysis and visualization and policy management? And so you can just type that in the chat. What are you curious about learning today? as it relates to our topic, our webinar topic. So you can also just raise your hand quickly to tell us what you're curious about. And you can also type that in the chat. Thank you, Janelle. I see that you've completed. Great. So Adele says she wants to learn new tools to enhance effectiveness. Karina wants to learn about new trends. Thank you for those comments, Adele and Karina. Halima says he wants to learn about various methods of data analysis and what tools are best used in visualization. Thank you for that, Halima. Yes, Alicia says better understanding on how to interpret data. Nicola, how to use data analysis to make better informed decisions. Anything, how to use data analysis to influence policy. Awesome. Merle says she wants to learn new tools and have a better understanding. Ronell wants to learn how to effectively use visualization in presenting data. Siobhan, how can data help to inform decisions, discussions, what tools, etc.? Donna, she wants to better understand data analysis. And Donna, you send the message to me privately, and you can send it to all participants for future comments. Mary, hi Mary from Belize. Yes, Mary wants to know how data analysis and visualization is being used in the Caribbean public sector to drive policy. And we're going to share some examples of that later. Serena, the methods of data analysis and visualization tools. David, how to use data for better analysis. Thank you, David. Mary, she's asking, will data-driven policy be a game changer in effectively, game changer amidst COVID? Very interesting question, Mary. And Thomas says she wants a better understanding on how to effectively, how to use, I guess, data effectively and efficiently. Or Diana or Dion, sorry if I mispronounced her name. He wants, or she, I don't know. How have an idea of how we can integrate data science in the education sector, which would require having a good understanding of data analysis and visualization. Okay, Via wants strengthening advice and reports based on data.
So, control you.
Janita wants to better understand the effectiveness of visualization and policy management. Ryan, how can I use it in the public sector, specifically the finance ministry? Hello, Minister Harris. Good morning, Minister Harris.
Good morning. Good morning, it's Nicholas, actually.
Okay.
Yes, Minister Nicholas, I believe you had my last name in.
Okay, I'm so sorry. I don't know what happened there.
Okay. Nicholas. Yes.
All right. So thank you for letting us.
Hello?
So I'm going to ask you just to mute yourself until we're ready for your presentation, Minister. Thank you so much. And with that, we are at the top of the hour. So thank you all, and we're hoping that at least some of your questions around the webinar topic will be answered today. And so we want to welcome everybody officially to the to our webinar. We have these webinars monthly on various topics that support the ongoing learning and development of our participants in our leadership development program, or stakeholders right across the public services or CARICAD institutions, and really just beyond. And today, we are looking specifically at the importance of data analysis and visualization in policy management. We're very pleased to be offering this webinar today on this Public Service Day. So the United Nations actually launched Public Service Day in 2003, and we here at CARICAD are happy to be celebrating Public Service Day as a part of this global community. At CARICAD, we believe that this is an annual event that should be recognized And the recent experience of COVID-19 once again demonstrates the importance of the public service and the contribution of its members to ensuring the safety, well-being, and continuity of our global community. And so we believe that so much has been done and even more needs to be done. And that then leads us to what is it that we do at CARICAD? And at CARICAD, our job is to support our member states in the area of public service transformation. And our work is guided by our Caribbean Public Service Charter. And what you see here is the conceptual framework of that charter, which consists of 6 core pillars: capacity building, standards, governance, accountability, openness, and modernized legislation. All of this is geared around having a citizen-oriented public service and having a public service that is responsive, results-oriented, resilient, and of course supporting sustainability. And our next slide here just sort of breaks down what falls under our 6 pillars. And if you want to learn more about our charter, do visit our website at caricad.net. But right now, it is our delight to introduce our 2 presenters who are going to be presenting on this topic. We will have Honorable Minister Melford Nicholas, Member of Parliament, and he is the Minister of Information Broadcasting, Telecommunications, and Information Technology with the government of Antigua and Barbuda. Also presenting is Mr. Leslie Leacock. He's Director of Artificial Intelligence, Analytics and Automation at Inco Services Limited. And so we are going to start first with a presentation by Mr. Leacock, and then that is going to be followed by a contribution from the Honorable Minister Nicholas. And so, Leslie, it's over to you. And so Leslie will be sharing his desktop with you for his presentation. And so we're going to invite you to, as he goes along, as you have questions and comments, to jot them down. You can also place them in the chat. But we will hand over to him now. So Leslie, over to you.
Good morning. Good morning, my friends from Suriname. Thank you for joining us. These are defining times, and you all have a lot to deal with, both professionally and personally. For most of us, the last couple of months have been tough adjustment, and you're probably being pulled here, there, and everywhere. So we appreciate your time and hope you leave today equipped with some practical examples of how to get started. Have you ever experienced a situation where you're doing an annual review?
Sorry, Leslie, sorry to interrupt, but for me, I'm only seeing a green screen. Is that what's showing on your desktop? So we're not, for me, I'm not seeing the presentation. Yes, and somebody in the practical is also not seeing your desktop.
Okay, is that okay now?
No.
Anything?
No, we're still not. We're still seeing the green screen.
Okay, let me stop sharing and share again.
Yes. Okay.
All right, how's that?
No. Oh yes, we're seeing it now. Great.
All right, wonderful. We can't talk about visual analytics without visuals, right?
Indeed.
So, have you ever experienced situations where you're doing an annual review only to realize that the needle hasn't moved? In fact, nothing has changed, or the situation is even worse now. If you have, then you already understand the importance of an evidence-based approach to policy. The need to measure what you manage, or you'll be measured and managed. However, this is not a new conversation. We've been speaking about an empirical approach to policy for years. So our objective today is to really move you from conceptual interest to practical execution. If nothing else, COVID-19 has demonstrated that it's now more important than ever to use data to answer critical questions. This conversation is even more relevant than ever, as during the pandemic, we needed timely, detailed, and trustworthy information to think quickly and act fast. When the corona outbreak started, the first thing we all did was turn to data. Think about it. This flattening curve graphic. That's data analysis and visualization. And these visualizations came to symbolize the pandemic, but also became a global call to action. It's helped us to see how the pandemic is affecting us, what action we need to take, and then understand how effective our policies have been in real time. Now, this crisis is not only taking a toll on public health, but it's also causing serious economic consequences across the region. And those macroeconomic hardships are affecting every organization in different ways. Our offices, our schools, our hotels are empty. Some businesses are closing down, while others are trying to ramp up to meet new and unexpected demand. How have you been affected? In this time, we've been constantly communicating with our employees and partners. While we know every country has unique challenges, we've discovered that we are all moving along these 3 stages of response to this crisis. 1, stabilize. Most organizations need to stabilize during rapid, unexpected change, focusing on employee health and safety, financial stability, and managing crisis as quickly as we can. 2, reopen. Once an organization has made rapid stabilizing decisions, they're shifting back to work and reopen their organization in this new environment. In the second phase, companies also need data to support their employees in this new digital world and find new ways of communicating with customers on a massive scale in some cases. And thirdly, grow. Organizations are adapting their businesses to emerge and grow, to become a more digital and data-driven organization and begin prepping for the new next normal. Most of this will also require data, as we have to monitor and understand what our new patterns are. Organizations are going through these 3 phases at different rates. Sometimes you'll even have organizations with different teams and different departments at different stages. But through each of these stages, we believe trusted data is important for your leadership, for your employees, and for your customers, so you can ultimately have the business continuity you're looking for. Which phase do you feel like your organization is in? In these phases, the common theme we've heard is that the shift to digital is more important than ever before, and it needs to happen quickly. The importance of ensuring the most vulnerable got assistance was critical, and in Jamaica, the CARE program was launched. Prior to COVID, systems to deliver targeted interventions at this scale never existed before, and the only way to reach their citizens quickly was to create an easy-to-use online platform. This ensured that every citizen was able to apply and receive assistance when it mattered. Digital apps are providing governments the ability to engage citizens with timely, accurate, and trusted information. In Trinidad, the launch of the COVID-19 app promises to allow the government to communicate with citizens at scale, avoiding panic and misinformation. It can potentially assist in the contact tracing efforts as things start to reopen. Many governments are also shifting from digital to digital for their workforce, as their entire organization has been forced to work remotely. For example, CARICAD and many cabinet meetings are now being held online. What's most striking is that digital transformation is no longer a nice to have. It's now an imperative, as citizens are now digital customers. And at the heart of this digital transformation is data. Everything that is digital generates data, and our policies won't become a reality if we don't analyze data and use it to provide better service, better engagement, better training, and better products to our customers. Every digital transformation is a data transformation. Let me share some Caribbean examples with you. So last year, we embarked on a government-wide analytics intervention in Antigua and Barbuda. It addressed two main challenges. One, people typically couldn't use data to make decisions. Attempts have been made in the past, but they required the ability to code and program, which created a barrier to adoption. And two, more often than not, the people that did use data didn't share it. This created silos even between departments in the same ministry. After a 2-day workshop, one of the multidisciplinary teams produced this dashboard. It looks at the data captured in the emergency room in the only hospital in Antigua, and it has the potential to allow hospital administrators to better understand who their patients are, the types of diagnoses that they are being treated for, and even the busiest times of the day for the ER, so they can more effectively schedule doctors. Wouldn't you agree? In these times, it's become even more critical to understand what medical resources are available to us, like beds, respirators, and doctors. As we start to reopen and we get back to work in a new environment, we see organizations putting in place the planning, logistics, and communications to resume operations, monitor change, and then respond to new demands while protecting employees. Like this government agency, that's ensuring the appropriate social distancing measures are being adopted as office layouts and shift systems now become mandatory considerations when we reopen. In the Bahamas, government will be officially opening for tourism on July 1st. Through a series of protocols, including what some have coined the electronic health visa, or more well known as the travel health card, the system will collect data from potential visitors, allowing them to be pre-screened before entry, mitigating risk, but also adhering to global health standards. This will help to balance lives with livelihoods, but also give Bahamians a jump ahead of the competitors. It will allow them to grow their tourism industry. Ultimately, data will drive all of this growth. You may or may not have heard this, but 90% of the world's data was created in the last 2 years. And due to the exponential growth of data, this will be true 2 years from now, and then 2 years from then. You might have heard that data is the new oil. Personally, I don't agree. I think data is the new air. Organizations, businesses, and governments that don't use data will not survive. So just some quick trivia, and you can pop it into the chat. Does anyone know who this is? Dr. Parks, I'll let you Waldo, fantastic. So that's right, so this is Waldo, and I'll use Waldo to illustrate how we can address our data challenges. So let's assume this is small data. Can you find Waldo? You can start annotating to point them out. I'll give you 10 seconds. You guys are going to find it, right? Found them, nice. Wonderful. So what are you going to do when you have big data? Well, it's pretty simple. You can just make it a little easier. Can you find Waldo now? Nice, colored his shirt, fantastic. So, what's the lesson here, guys? Well, that's pretty much what my wife would say, but not actually it. Lesson is, why do we play Where's Waldo every day with our data? So you're probably not convinced, so let's do some more eye tests. Question: how many 9s are there on the screen? And go ahead and pop it back into the chat. Two more seconds. 11. Well done, Alicia. So let me see if I can make that process simpler faster and more accurate. In fact, let me make it 60,000 times faster. How many 9s? And all I did was add color. In this way, we can easily see that there are 11 9s. Let's see a more complicated example. What's the worst performing subcategory and segment? 5 seconds. No? Well, this is how our brain is processing it. So we're going through all of the columns while trying to memorize all the numbers and holding on to that lowest number that we saw. After that, what we're going to do is go across, and our brains are also trying to memorize facts again. Supplies. Supplies where? You know, what if we visualized it? What's the worst performing subcategory and segment? Pretty easy to see now. It's tables, the consumer segment. Fantastic. So we've heard that, you know, there's so much data being generated, but how is data being used today? Well, this is pretty much what the analytics space looks like. The most, the many, and the few. Most people do nothing. They think it's too hard or too costly. Many people use Excel. They spend 80% of their time crunching numbers, answering the hows, how to do a VLOOKUP, how to do a pivot, how to do a calculation, and less than 20% answering the whys. Why are people not wearing masks? Why are citizens getting infected? A few hire a team of data scientists who work their voodoo just to answer simple questions. But is there another way? How about data literacy? How about giving everyone the ability to see and understand their data? Now, this is very much like computer literacy of the 80s. Now, consider this. Picture a world where every time you had to send an email or use Facebook or even send a tweet, you needed to call someone for help. Then why should we call someone for help when we need to make a decision? Fortunately, there's a quiet revolution happening, one of data visualization, one of data literacy, and one of self-service analytics, where everyone at all skill levels have the ability to see and understand their data. As you embark on this journey, you'll hear all of these things. We're here to dispel these notions. A very common one: we don't have data, or the data is dirty, it's not clean. In a few minutes, I'll show you how you can get deep insights with dirty data. Or we don't have infrastructure, we need a data warehouse. In a few minutes, I'll show you how to get deep insights from very simple data sources like text documents and Excel spreadsheets. A very common one I hear is, you know, we already have reports. Well, reports only answer one question. Have you ever been in a situation where a board is expecting a presentation? You threw up a chart or some data onto the screen in the boardroom presentation, and something attracts the attention of one of the board members. And chairman gets up and he points to the screen and he says, "Why is this happening?" And everybody shrugs shoulders, they leave the boardroom, and they call the analyst to generate a new report. So 1 month later, the board reconvenes, they throw up the new dashboard, the new report, and then he says, "Why?" And then everybody leaves and goes away and comes back a month later, and it takes months to get to the bottom of the problem. Well, that's the difference between reports and analytics. Analytics gives you the ability to deep dive, to drill down, to get answers to the questions when the questions still matter. There's no legislative framework, and I hear this quite often. And trust me, I believe that we need solid laws to protect privacy. But, you know, different countries are in different positions in terms of their privacy laws and these policies, and everybody's working forward to it. But it shouldn't be a reason not to use data to make better decisions now. No budgets, really common as well. And most organizations have been burnt in the past with expensive projects that take a really, really long time to deliver. But modern approaches, especially cloud and subscription models, have made software that was typically only available to extremely large companies available to everyone today. And last but not least, I hear this very often at every conference I attended, it requires political will. You'll hear from Minister Nicholas, who continues to demonstrate leadership in this space. So if I could switch over, I'll just show you some examples. So is everyone seeing my screen? I just switched over. You should see 56 on your screen. Everyone seeing it? Nice. So thank you for submitting your responses to the survey. We got 60 responses. In terms of demographics, wow. Good time to be on this conversation as a guy. So 68% of our attendees are female. 60% are also from the government and public sector. 35% management, 30% staff, 20% supervisory, 15% executive. We have one person joining us from the US. Welcome. We also have here a nice distribution. I see Belize is well represented here. Montserrat, Trinidad, Barbados, Grenada, St. Lucia, Dominica, 4 ladies from Montserrat again, Antigua, Barbuda, St. Martin. And we have 3 from Guyana. I don't know why Suriname isn't showing up, but we could always fix that later. So, anyone ever heard of the birthday paradox? Because we collected really simple data at the start of this webinar. Brandon, fantastic. So Brandon, question for you. We had 60 responses. What's the chances of 2 people sharing the same birthday? 60 people, 365 days in a year. What are the chances, you guys think? I think it's about a 99.9% chance that we have. So let's see the results. Wow. So we have 4 groups of people that actually share the same birthday. So 10th July, let's see. So Flemen and Aquila, I'll tell you where you guys are from. One from Jamaica, and the other person didn't say which country. Aquila didn't say which country. Today is the 23rd of June. Nobody's celebrating their birthday today, but we had somebody who did yesterday. And that was Sharon. Happy belated birthday, Sharon. We have 2 more people. So Joyanne and Nivea. I apologize if I butchered that. And you guys are from Barbados and Trinidad. Nice. One more group here. So Timothy and Andre. Trinidad and Barbados again. And we also have Serena and Renelle. So while you guys filled out this extremely simple survey, we're able to do really powerful analytics on it really quickly and give you real-time insights. In terms of a baseline, I'll tell you what everybody is saying. So most people, 45%, want to understand how to more efficiently and effectively use data. So it sounds like you're already on your data journey. 35% just want to learn about analytics. 15% want to progress the trends, and 7% want to become data-driven. Most people, 75%, both consume and create data. Amazing. These are the main reasons people have cited as barriers. So technical knowledge, and what I'll do, I could quickly show you how to build some of these things. It's really simple. And then no data or dirty data. Fantastic. So in terms of technical knowledge, I'll just run you guys through quickly. I have about 5 minutes left, but it's enough time to do that. So for example, I'll just show you a quick map. So those are all of our responses. Oh, we have somebody from the Netherlands as well. And in terms of responses, we can see where we got the larger number of responses. And that's how quickly we build a map. In terms of barriers, I'll show you a simple way to do that. Here we go. We have a nice bar chart. See what the #1 barrier is: technical knowledge, dirty data. If we wanted to create that word cloud that I had, guys, it would look like this. So, getting into analytics is really, really simple, and analytics has really transformed, my personal life as well as my career. My background, doesn't have any coding or programming abilities, and I stumbled onto some tools that really transformed the way that I saw the world, and I guess how the way the world saw me, because I'm here talking to you guys about it. A couple of years ago, I was invited to go present in Jamaica at a conference. So I was scouring the internet for data, just because I like to keep things relevant, and I stumbled across this. Anybody familiar with open data? Anybody have heard of open data before? So there are about Tableau, yeah. So there are about 4 or 5 different countries that in the Caribbean that subscribe to open data, and Jamaica being one of them. They produce, I think they produce the best open data sets. So I was fortunate to stumble on this. So I did this analysis, and to me it was pretty boring. It took me about 5–10 minutes to do this, but I wanted to have some local context. So when I got to the conference, I did a chikungunya analysis, and then I threw this one up, and the moderator told me, take it down. I almost got kicked out of the conference. When I asked her why, she said it's because of the NCC. Now in Trinidad, we don't have an NCC, so I had no clue what that was. The NCC in Jamaica is the National Contract Commission of Jamaica. This is basically 14 years of government tenders. So I guess I understand why she asked me to take it down. But this data is available online. And that's when the light bulb went off in my head, that even if we had data, most people don't know how to use it. So, a simple one, this actually got me a meeting with the Contractor General of Jamaica. So I met with a gentleman by the name of Dirk, really nice guy. And I flipped open my laptop and I said, Dirk, what's the largest contract awarded by Jamaica in the last 14 years? He said, well, Leslie, that's a tough question. I said, well, not really. Buoys, 170 million US. I said, oh, okay, that's the highway. I knew about that. So I like to pick on competitors, for example. So, I click on IBM. And over the 14-year period, we could see 14 million US was spent on IBM. Now, the IDB typically requires some transparency. So let's see what projects were paid for by the IDB. And there were 3. The largest being this one here. 3 million US for the development of a secure internet portal infrastructure. A website for 3 million US. Let me share some of the examples. Okay. So this one we just touched on quite earlier, and this was the emergency room analysis done by a team in Antigua. And comprising that team, there were people from the Ministry of Health from the hospital, there were people from the Ministry of Finance, there were people from the the statistical office, and they were put on a multidisciplinary team to foster collaboration and communication. And at the end of 2 days, they produced this. This is basically a dashboard showing 90 days worth of data from their emergency room. So you can quickly see where people are coming from. And it was surprising that Golden Grove, had the highest number of patients, because it's not one of the larger communities closer to the hospital. But what they quickly saw is that All Saints community and All Saints Village, which was one of the larger ones, right, represented 2 separate items here, which was basically dirty data. So we could actually fix that. I'm not going to fix it now, but it takes 2 clicks literally, guys. We saw a fairly regular distribution in terms of the age buckets for attendees, for patients. What we found was interesting as well is that this V72.9, this was a data entry problem. This is the data entry clerks not properly categorizing data because they didn't understand the value of understanding what specific diagnoses. What was extremely compelling was that in the 90-day period, they saw one patient that visited ER 70 times. And now this is driving conversations about perhaps we could create a clinic, right, specific to these types of diagnoses, so we could deal with it outside of the emergency room and really, you know, more efficiently manage the ER resources. They're able to quickly figure out on what days and what time of the day were their busiest periods. So Sunday evening at between the hours of 5 and 6 were the busiest for them. They're able to look at the performance of each physician to see how many cases were being addressed by each physician. This is all done in 2 days by people across multiple teams. I want to share one more with you guys. So this one here, actually back from Trinidad. So this is our CSO's data that they have never seen like this. I basically found this online. This is open data, I suppose, and it shows every single community in Trinidad. It shows the population of that particular community, and on a scale of green to red, comfortable to uncomfortable, it shows how many people on average live per household. So we took this data and we combined it with a data set from the Ministry of Housing. Now, very interesting. The Ministry of Housing in Trinidad accepts or has been accepting 2003, 15, and we cast in 2020 demand for 3,636 houses. Now, why this analysis is interesting is that they got a new permanent secretary at that point in time. And the PS met with the executive team and she asked the question, what's the true demand of housing? And it's a really complicated question when you think about it, because depending on what you do in the organization, your perception of true demand is different. So if you are in construction, then true demand is where you've completed. If you are in planning, true demand is 5 years from now. Now, why I particularly like this analysis is it gives them a transparent way to quickly figure out who we should be giving houses to. So why I like this analysis is I have a really good friend of mine, a single guy, no kids, not married, and he was born in Port of Spain, which is kind of somewhere up here. And he works in Arima, which is somewhere across here, and he applied for a house because everybody wants a house. And he got a 3-bedroom house in Princestown, somewhere around here. Now he travels 2 hours to work each way every single day. The sad part about it is that now the whole family in Princestown has gone without a house. So let's figure out. So my friend, he just settled for something in Arima where he works. So we go from 240,000 applications, 23,000 applications. He's 33 to 42, 10,000 people. Right? He makes $10,000 to $20,000 a month, and he would settle for an apartment. But you know what? Only 7 people meet that criteria. Let's pick up the phone and tell them they qualify and call these 7 people quickly. My presentation for now, I think that's about it. I think I've given you some food for thought. I want to hand back over to Dr. Fox. Thank you so much.
Great. Thank you so much, Leslie. So if you could stop sharing.
All done.
All right, great. And so, Raphael, if you could take the ball from Mr. Leesbrook and pass to me. So the next presenter is going to be the Honorable Minister Melford Nicholas. And Minister Nicholas has had really an illustrious career. He has had almost 3 decades worth of experience in business management and in industrial relations. And he is a member of Parliament. He successfully retained his seat in the 2018 general election. and he was reappointed as Minister of Information Broadcasting, Telecommunications, and Information Technology in March 2018. And so really, Minister Nicholas is really a champion of this area, as as it relates to digital government, digitization of our processes, and of course, using data for policy decisions. And so, Minister Nicholas, we invite you now to share your experiences and thoughts in this area. Over to you, sir.
Okay, good morning, and thank you very much, Dr. Cox, and to my friend and colleague, Leslie Lee Fuchs, and to the other members on the WebEx forum, including as well my member staff, Ms. Isoki Perry. I want to take this opportunity to thank you all for giving me the opportunity to share some of the experiences that we have here. I should say that over the last 6 years, excuse me, this has certainly been a cultural change for me. Having worked all of my previous adult life in the private sector, and coming to the public sector was a bit of a culture shock. In as much as the requirements to have positive outcomes for the work that we do still remains in the public sector, the approaches and the structure and the culture of the public sector is a lot different to what it was in the private sector. And so from the very beginning, my task was to lead the digital transformation of the government of Antigua and Barbuda. I think it is fair to say that what is true for Antigua today is probably true for most of the English-speaking Caribbean, who are former colonies of one or more European powers, and within the Caribbean region, that European power would be the UK. They bequeathed to us and we inherited a particular bureaucracy in terms of the way we were governed. And from my own standpoint, lamentably, we have slavishly maintained the structures of those bureaucracies. And to an extent, it is part of our continuing without development. But I'm not here to make a political speech, only to share some of my experiences. But the background of what I just shared, is a necessary background to understanding what the challenge that we're facing here with Antigua. And I am particular as the subject matter minister with responsibility for forging this new path. Suffice to say that we are part of a wider Caribbean amalgam under the auspices of the Caribbean Telecommunications Union, of which I am currently its president. But going beyond that, I believe in January of 2018, the CTU, in collaboration with the government of Antigua, under the auspices of my ministries, held a most important summit in Antigua that we refer to as the 21st Century Government Summit. And out of that experience, we basically outlined that a 21st century government was going to be capitalized by a few of these points. And clearly, coming at the end of some of these objectives was the need for institutionalizing the use of information as the way of driving policy, of making decisions, of improving effectiveness and efficiency of the entire nation. Now, all the folks are always saying in the Caribbean that a lot can slip between cup and lip. So while those were the stated objectives, here is the work that has to be done, and has to be done incrementally. I was fortunate in having attended many of these fora within the region, sponsored both by the private sector and the CTO and other external agencies. I happen to have met Leslie Lee folks. I can't remember when, but our relationship has at least spanned 3 to 4 years. And while we were in the process of the discussion, I believe Leslie would have done at least one or more of these presentations about big data and about data analytics. I do recall that on the very first year of my engagement as minister back in 2014, I had someone from the World Bank who came with a project of having of forging open data. And I said at the time that we were not ready. There were a few other developmental steps that had to be taken before we got to the point where we could even embrace the concept of open data. But I believe Leslie introduced us here in Antigua, and I think the other persons who attended that forum, to what his group in could have done. He said he was in Suriname with me last year, and I would have had the benefit of some of the presentations that would have been done at the CTU forums. And I took him at his word and invited him to do a seminar here in Antigua, which would have been the opening salvo, as it were, in terms of moving our country forward with understanding big data analytics. The slide that he shared from the work that was done by the cross-functional team was a slide because I think it caused everyone, even the attendees, for the first time to that there is a lot that can happen, a lot of new initiatives that can come to the fore with information that we were sitting and we're not aware of their impacts. I believe the presentation that was done on the Mount St. John's Public Hospital assisted us as policy planners, as public sector managers, in understanding some of the devil that lied in the details. Because invariably, where citizens would enter the portals of the public health facility and not have a good experience, the first thing that they would do is to arm themselves and to get into the public media on social media and complain. And of course, that can sometimes be a bugbear for us politicians. We don't like when people come, like when people applaud. And so how do you overcome this mismatch with the expectation that the system has with the experiences that they're having? And how do you overcome it? Now, looking down at those screens, you could clearly see that anyone could delve into and remove the onion peels and to be able to get down to some of the root causes. I believe the slide that really caught my attention at the time I delved into it. The gentleman who visited the hospital for 70 times within a 90 period, he wasn't really ill. This gentleman figured out that this was a way for him to go to the hospital while in the waiting room to get a meal. And this was the real reason with the patient. He was not really ill, but he found it as a convenient way to get a free meal. So there are other social programs that could satisfy this gentleman. That clearly we could then take him out of the sample, take him out of the traffic of the hospital and give him a different treatment. And that could only have happened. First of all, no one was aware that he was doing it. Perhaps maybe the persons who were on the front line would have become acquainted with him and familiar with him. But no one who was in a decision to make a decision was aware of it until the analysis was done. And I think many, many times that there are instances where this happens within the organization. Now, we're on a journey. Antigua is on a journey. Many of the other CTU member countries are on this journey to very quickly, in a short and a big period of time, digitize the environment. And we are on a massive continuum. So for some countries, they have not yet built out a wide area network for all of the government computing systems they have. For several others, they have not yet have a massive network. Some others have not yet done the application layer of development so that those particular functional areas of the government have already become automated. And yet still there are those who have completed those two earlier steps and have these data silos, these massive data silos, but they are still operating as silos. And I want to focus here a little bit on what my experience has taught us, in that the cultural norm is within this whole silo treatment is that there are persons within those silos who know this information, who have this information, and I would consider to be information power brokers. But they defend that particular brokerage of theirs with a relentless intent. And so they've almost become information terrorists. They would not share that information because they understand that it gives them a reserve amount of power. And how do you deal with these people? And so the whole issue now of how does the government treat the information? Does it keep information within these silos? Or it begins now to move to the common practice, where the information becomes now part of a massive cloud of information that can be cross-referenced and cross-fertilized. And you can do the reconciliation of one source against another to begin to show you how the government is actually performing at levels deep within the epidermis of the government that would not previously have been understood or far less discerned. And so these are some of the structural issues that we are coming up upon. And I have found that notwithstanding all of the money that we have spent on application systems, on information systems, and various cloud systems and various data warehousing systems, we still have to overcome the inertia that exists because of the adaptation of new ways of doing business really runs against the culture and really runs against the interests of certain people embedded in the old political and administrative system. And so we would be careful to point out, and I would say this to any other policymaker who is on this forum with us today, and I would say this to my other colleagues in the region, that we must also focus on some of the soft skills, the change management that is required, to be mindful that there are going to be these countervailing forces that are going to stand in the way. I have a lot more that I could say about the platform, but I think we have a limited time and more need to be spent with each other, and if there are any questions that could come from what I've just shared. But safe to say, Antigua is on this journey. It falls to me humbly to continue to provide this leadership. I endorse the work that Leslie's doing, and he is going to be part of the fraternity of persons that help us to complete the journey. And I have been looking forward to this year, 2020, to be the breakthrough year for our information and our transformation journey. Only to be stymied and waylaid by a little bit by COVID-19. Having said all of that as well, COVID-19 did give us a unique opportunity because there has been inertia and there has been some resistance towards making some of these changes that have been forging. I think it gave us a momentum, a little push. It forced not only the cabinet, but many other organizations within the government to make a step change in terms of the way it related to information technology. Many of our systems had to move towards virtual operations. I think in Antigua, we were the first country in the English-speaking Caribbean to have moved our cabinet sessions virtually. I think we were the first countries in this part of the world as well to have a session of our parliament done in a virtual environment. I believe the UK government followed us by at least 1 month. And so we have been able to make some of these transitional changes. COVID forced those two latter ones upon us, and I think it opened the way for information technology to have a brand new conversation within government and to improve its overall credibility rating, to be able to say that information communication technology and the ability for us to be able to get this dividend of having the use of information analytics from the information that sits within the silos of our government to inform policy options, to better inform policymakers, and to assist with the planning process. But moreover, it helps to distill and to improve the efficiency and effectiveness of many institutions of the government that has been so ably demonstrated by the slides that we shared with our public hospital. And that is just 2 days' work. I believe an efficient data mining team would be able to do that in a matter of hours. And if this were an ongoing exercise, you can begin to see that it will not only allow us the opportunity to improve our ease of doing business for citizens through our public services, but could really take our public health facilities up to a world-class level if we continue to practice these issues. It is true for the medical facility. It is also true for our Customs and Excise Division. It will be true as well for our tourism management product. It will be true for our immigration management system, and many, many other systems of government. So it is going to be left to my stewardship and to whatever leadership that I'm able to muster while I continue to follow this position. to lead this transformation process in Antigua. And as I say, I heartily commend the work that Leslie and Nicholas are doing in the region, and I'm happy to share what I just said with you all. Thank you very much, folks, and Dr. Parks, I'm sorry. And I haven't seen my good friend, Mr. Rowe, on the call, but I know he's there somewhere. My good friend Rowe, I know that you're here, so I salute you and the work that you're doing in CARICAD as well. Thank you very much, Dr. Parks.
Thank you so much as well. Indeed, Minister, a crisis is a terrible thing to wait. And so at this time, say for the next 20 minutes or so, we are going to be fielding questions to both Minister Nicholas as well as to Mr. Lifu. And so there are some questions already in the chat. So the first one is from Michelle Bermesa. I believe this one is for you, Leslie. And she's saying open source data sources, I understand, are not secure and can be easily hacked. And I guess you refer to a lot of open source data. So Leslie, what is your response to that?
With little restrictions by the government, so but they are anonymized and privatized, so there's no personally identifying information in it, and they're readily available. It's just there's no matter of hacking. You don't even need to hack it to access it, to be honest. But private sector, public sector can share information and benefit from these things.
All right, thank you. The next question comes to us from Joyanne, and she says, given the thrust towards digitization, how secure is cloud-based computing, especially for critical sectors? And she said she's thinking about the vulnerability of the Caribbean as it relates to natural disasters. I mean, we have just started hurricane season, and the move away from having our physical records stored. So I think that might be another question for you, but feel free to chime in.
Sure, I might be able to take a stab at it. So it's argued that these cloud providers are way more secure than you even hosting your own information. So, everybody's on a budget. So the amount of money an organization would spend on cybersecurity, on securing the infrastructure is a fraction of what these large cloud providers spend. Physical access, digital access, for our cloud provider is critical. It's a core business. Our organization, that's not their core business. Our core business might be, finance, healthcare, etc. So a lot of the cloud providers tout that they're actually more secure. The problem is, all those eggs are now in one basket, and they could be an easy centralized source of attack. So I agree with you. But I think they do have a lot more resources and budgets to expand on these things and could potentially offer a more secure environment to store data. The bigger challenge, I think, for us is sovereignty in the region. So most of the cloud providers don't really, or the big ones, don't really have regional presence. So if we were to, store data, it would be in a US cloud or a European cloud, and sovereignty becomes, I guess, the more critical point.
All right, thank you so much.
Ms. Fox, give a response to that, because
sure, Minister.
Our adaptation process. We did adopt a hybrid cloud technology for Antigua. We said that we operate within two clouds, and there is a public cloud provided by Microsoft, the Azure cloud. We have commercial arrangement with Microsoft, and much of our public-facing information is stored in that particular cloud. But we also have adapted for the same reason that the internet, the sovereignty of certain critical information on our treasury. That type of information that we would ordinarily not want to be exposed to the possibility that a third party could inadvertently get access to our information. We do have our own private cloud in which we have prepared the most regulated security arrangements. And even in that environment where we would have done so, we still have internal disaster recovery mechanisms to ensure that if we are ever subject to a cybersecurity attack, and we would have a system failure, we would be able to respond and recover in the shortest possible. So yes, it is something that we have to traverse. Many countries will have to traverse that as well. But to the person who asked the question, data is sometimes even more secure in working with a competent cloud service provider, and I'll say it for this reason. There are many things that can happen. You'll find generally when you are managing a local IT environment, which you have your own servers, your own custom servers, where there are irregular network access to these systems generally tend to produce log files. And invariably, we sometimes don't have the IT cover to be able to do the 7x24 management of these environments. And then when you have an event that takes place, you discover it at the time of the event, only to now go back to the log files and indicate that they've been showing a pattern all along. So it's not sometimes the first attack that comes through. It's sometimes over a series of attacks. And so when you're working with a cloud service provider, they have this overall cover to ensure that if anyone was trying to attack your data or your virtual cloud service, they would have an early detection of these systems. And so you can define the level of security that you would want in that cloud, and you will get the type of high-level security cover that you'll be looking for from the beginning. So you're probably more secure in the cloud than you are in managing your on-premise standalone service.
Thank you so much, Minister. And the question came from Joyanne, and she has responded in the chat. Thanks for the answers shared. And so we invite our participants. We have a few more minutes where we can take a few more comments or questions. You can either type it in the chat, or you can quickly raise your hand. There was another question which I believe was directed at Leslie. And Leslie, very specific question. Somebody, I think Bradley, was asking, which tool were you using when you were doing your presentation? Well, you know, when you're doing those data analyses?
Sure. So everybody knows that I'm pretty much very biased to a tool called Tableau. The tool itself is the easiest to use tool on the platform. I can't program, I can't code, but I need to answer questions about my business. And now for other customers, their businesses as well. And it just gives you, once you have the ability to drag and drop and double click, and you have the curiosity of a 5-year-old, then Tableau is a good fit for you. In terms of other tools on the market, there's Microsoft Power BI, there is another tool called Click, there's ThoughtSpot. I mean, there's a whole host of tools, but Tableau is the one that changed my life. So I have a firm believer in it. Tableau, Harrison. I'll pop it into the chat.
And Falima is asking if there are any free tools.
Yeah, so Tableau has something called, I'll put it into the chat, there's something called Tableau Public, which is free. And you guys can use it, no charge. It's for public data, like you can't go analyze your company's data and then publish it to the cloud because it's an open cloud. Yeah, you guys feel free to download it.
All right, great. Thank you so much.
All participants.
And
there you go.
not seeing there it is in the chat. So not seeing any hands nor any additional questions. I do have a comment here from Woods, which is currently in one of our leadership development programs in charge of the road safety unit in Jamaica. We have shared in the chat that data analysis is important, especially when it's integrated with inferential statistical techniques. And he went on to say they've used it for road safety, especially when surveying motorcyclists across Jamaica. Thank you for sharing that, Ken. It's an excellent example. Thank you so much. And so as we come close to the end of this our webinar, Leslie, there is another question from Odion. What specific gaps in education system do data analysis? Okay, just make sure I'm understanding. What specific gaps in the education system do you see data analysis being able to address? And I think that, this is directed to you, Minister.
I think the abilities are infinite. I think the question is, data sources do we have to permit the analysis to be done across? And as I've said, we are at a foundational level here. while we would have done the analysis and systems, it has not yet reached across the board. I do believe that it would be the next natural area. We're dealing with thousands of inputs. In fact, we have just put in place a new education network for our public secondary schools last December. And so all the secondary school students and the faculty would be actually on this network and be able to access information from across many different sources to help in the education process. In terms of performance of key individuals, I think it will be able to help the faculty within a particular school to be able to do the analysis on the performance of individual students across subject matters. It will be able to allow the faculty as well to do analysis on the impact of various approaches to pedagogy by the persons who are delivering the education. There's so many possibilities that could come from data analysis based on the input that is available for the people who will be doing the analysis. And I guess it's really a question of getting in with your feet, and as Leslie said, with the capacity of a 5-year-old, begin to do the analysis. I would have to say that we're not going to know all of the potential benefits or outcomes of doing the analysis until we begin to do it. Some of it is going to become like a pleasant surprise. In other instances, it's going to be an embarrassing surprise. But I think that is what the data analysis allows us to do, to become better at everything that we do, we want to do. It will assist us by showing us these photos of what's actually happening.
Thank you so much, Minister. So Leslie, there's a question I believe is directed at you because they're related to something that you mentioned. And so Mary is asking, because she didn't fully understand what you meant when you said dirty data is not a problem. So she's asking you whether you can elaborate how we can overcome that problem of dirty data.
Sure. Would you mind giving me back control so I can share my screen?
Sure.
Sure. Let's take the desktop too. Okay. So let me know if you guys could see that.
Yes, we can.
All right. So this was a list of all the communities, and I'm not saying data is not a problem, but you need to be able to start with the data wherever you are, and then work within the confines of that data. So, for example, All Saints and All Saints Village is the same place. Well, let's just group them. So now we have All Saints. So now we have All Saints here, and we could now rename it All Saints. Right? Because nobody has clean data, nobody has perfect data. So going through an exercise like this, like cleaning up this list, is typically in the traditional world a 6-month project for IT. But we should be empowered to fix some of this data as it comes up. So Potter's Village as well. So fix the data, right? And then be able to make decisions based on that. This shouldn't. I've seen organizations that have embarked on analytics journeys where they want to use data to become data driven, and then there's IT intervention that the project turns into a data warehouse project or data cleansing exercise that a year, 2 years later, they still haven't been able to analyze any data. So you need to balance that agility and get some results. Otherwise, we see a lot of organizations dipping their toes into analytics, and they invest some money because everybody knows it's important to use data to drive decisions. But there isn't value, so we focus on demonstrating value and quick wins up front. To say, hey, this is interesting, and even with our bad data, our dirty data, we're still able to get these really powerful insights. Now let's invest in properly cleaning the data. Let's invest in proper systems, procedures, protocols to ensure the clean data comes in the first place. So we just kind of flip the engagements upside down and focus on the end result. Does that kind of answer your question? So I'll stop sharing now.
All right then. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So Raphael just passed back the ball to me. I'm going to invite Leslie. So there are a number of questions coming up and comments. So we are Let me see. Let me just take one more question here from Alicia. Could you run issue with cleaning the dirty data in terms of duplication and erroneous information, which would affect the statistics? So Leslie, that one's for you.
So my background isn't in statistics, but grouping them like I just showed you on screen pretty much makes one unique bin for everything. So statistically, it should be treated in the same exact way. As if we had clean data, that is, sorry.
Yeah. And so there's a question here from Odara. Are you encouraging fellow administrators across the Caribbean to update their systems, integrate data analysis and visualization? And so what I will do is, so that's a question for you, Minister. And so as we close, I'm going to ask, Leslie, just do your whatever closing thoughts you have. And then, Minister, I would ask you to follow Leslie, just to respond to that question and to share with us any parting thoughts you have for our audience here today. So Leslie and then Minister Nicholas.
So which question is that? Sorry, you broke up there for a second.
Oh, sorry about that. No, there's a question. Well, the question is really not for you, it's for Minister Harris. So the question is, how are you encouraging fellow administrators, I figure it's fellow, political leaders across the region to update their systems to integrate data analysis and visualization? So that's the question for Minister. So I'm going to ask you to do your closing thoughts, then Minister to respond to that question and give his closing thoughts. So Leslie and then
Sure, thank you. Well, in closing, I just want to thank you guys for your time today. I know everybody has packed schedules and I know how crazy things are these days. So I appreciate you sharing in an hour with us. In closing, my recommendation is just start today. My journey has shown that if you're able to demonstrate value with data, that's where all our focus is. And not in the programming skills, the math abilities, the stats abilities, is in understanding what is the data telling me, visualizing it, being able to tell stories with it, and more importantly, just starting today. And that would be my recommendation.
Thank you so much, Leslie. Minister.
Yes, something that I think Odian asked, it's an important question. And I think for many persons, if I could use as an example, the World Bank generated Ease of Doing Business Index. I think all of the participating countries are featured in the annual EDB index from the World Bank. I think there is a level of ownership. Who has ownership for this information? And I think if countries continue to see it as a chore that we have to respond to these surveys and get this information out and our own performance without taking consideration of, look, this is saying something about me, and do I want to have a better ease of doing business for my citizens by myself without even the World Bank asking for this information? If we take that approach, and then I think we will have a more proactive and more, I would say, an interest in managing this, in responding to these surveys on a more timely and more meaningful basis, which is to say that the whole idea of an exception reporting is that there is no data provided for the country. It means that we're not interested in developing those systems or improving our performance in those particular areas. So it's a question of us doing it for ourselves, and we do not mind sharing it with the external community. So if there is ownership of the management of our systems for ourselves, we will continue to have more of that. So I'm just saying to have a more wholesome approach towards public administration and to say that anything that is going to be said about us, we become conscious of it and we become audit, and so we will be responsible for generating improvement. Nothing is wrong with taking a baseline report. What is wrong if we continue to remain in that particular position over a considered period of time? So my approach to it is to take it, look at it, own what it says, and to do something about it for the following seasons, and then we will always be proud to share our improvement because we will be going in a positive direction afterwards.
All right, Minister. Thank you so much. Thank you, Leslie. You might be seeing the comments in the chat. People are just thanking you both for taking the time out to share with us so meaningfully, so in depth. The kinds of adjectives being used for this webinar is excellent, inspiring, thought-provoking. And we want to just assure everybody that the link to the recording and the slides will be emailed to registrants later this week. And so we just want to end by sharing a few announcements with you. So our next webinar will be next month, July 14th, and continuing with the whole theme of digitization. And we're going to be looking specifically at transitioning to virtual learning, the case of the Learning and Development Directorate in Barbados that has managed to do that pivot successfully. We also want to remind you, if you don't know already, that our call for applications for our mid-level leadership development program is out, and so you can check our website at caribbeanleadership.org for more information on that. And you can also email us at caricad@caricad.net for information on that, as well as anything about the services that we offer. And so at this time, we just want to invite you, before you leave us today, to just fill out our very brief poll. It's another poll, yes.